Hi everyone, my name is Melissa van Dijk, and in today's video I want to answer the question, how does Tazarotene compare to Tretinoin and which one is more effective? Now, if you are comparing retinoids, you may be unsure what the real difference between these two is, because both products are prescription retinoids and are often described with terms that make the differences sound bigger than they really are. But when you look at what actually happens inside the skin, it becomes much clearer and also much less dramatic. So to understand the real difference, we first need to look at what happens when these ingredients touch the skin. Now, when you apply tretinoin to the skin, it is already in a form that the skin can use right away. And because of that, your skin receives the active ingredient immediately. And the active ingredient is the part that actually communicates with your skin cells and tells them to renew themselves faster, which is what improves texture, acne, and fine lines over time. And since this happens without any delay, many of you will notice effects sooner. But irritation can also show up quickly if you start too strong or too fast. Tazarotene, on the other hand, works just a little differently. When you apply it to the skin first has to change it into tazarotenic acid, which is the form it can actually use. This happens automatically, so you do not have to do anything for it. But once that step happens, the skin receives its active form, which interacts with the same retinoid receptors that tretinoin does and leads to similar effects. So even though the product starts out differently on the surface, inside the skin the end result is very similar, even though it is not the exact same molecule. And for some of you, this small extra step can make the very first uses feel a little gentler. But once it has fully converted, it can act quite strongly, which is why irritation can still happen, especially with higher strengths. So the question is not really about which one creates a better or more powerful active ingredient, because in the end, the skin is reacting to very similar signals. The difference is simply in how quickly the skin receives it and how strongly it interacts with the skin once it's active. Now, this is where confusion often comes in. You may hear that Tazarotene is stronger, and in certain ways it can be. And that is because once it has fully converted, it can attach more strongly to the parts of the skin that respond to retinoids. These are the same spots that tell the skin how quickly to renew itself. And because Tazarotene attaches more tightly, it can sometimes push those changes a bit harder than tretinoin, which is why it may feel more intense for some of you. But this does not mean that it's automatically better, because a stronger product is only effective if your skin can tolerate it consistently. And this is where marketing can play a role. When a product is described as stronger or more advanced, it can make it sound like the results will be dramatically different. But in real everyday use, because both ingredients activate the same skin pathways, the long-term results can be very similar. What really matters is what your skin can handle without becoming irritated to the point where you have to stop using it. So for many of you, tretinoin ends up being easier to stick with, because it comes in a range of strength and formulations that allow for a slow and comfortable adjustment. And Tazarotene can be an option for those who already tolerate retinoids well, but it's not automatically a better choice or a necessary upgrade. So to summarize this in a simple way, tretinoin works immediately, which can feel strong at first, but also gives steady long-term results when introduced slowly. Tazarotene needs a small conversion step, and while this may feel gentler during the first few uses, it can act more strongly once it has fully converted. But in the end, the most important factor in effectiveness is what your skin tolerates well enough to use regularly. And I hope that this helped you understand the differences more clearly. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Happy skin caring!